Campbell, it's in! Campbell comes off the bench to be a hero, a superhero. Breakthrough. It's taken a while, but it's been worth the wait for Cardiff City.
Hey guys, I'm Si, and welcome to episode number 41 of the Andy Campbell Champion Show, exclusively at the moment on A.C.E Podcast Nation, represented by Black Diamond Sports International. Today, very special day for me personally because it is episode number 200 of A.C.E Podcast Nation, and I would just like to take a minute to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in, downloaded, shared, liked any of the shows, and of course to all the guests, all the people, and of course my co-hosts like young Andy here and a couple of the other guys as well. Everyone who's just supported the channel, I appreciate you all and I thank you. But this is only the beginning, only the start of what we plan to do. We've of course got podcasts, series, shows, interviews and content on all sorts of subjects, from football, mental health, MMA, boxing, conspiracy theories, and a whole lot more, including our unique series, My Story, and Unscripted and Uncensored, which we have some new episodes of those coming up soon. We have a My Story. Next episode is with Cardiff City legend Scott Young, which is a very, very interesting show as we take him through his career. But you can subscribe to the channel at youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. That is the best way and the quickest way to support the channel. And you can find all our shows in video format there, as well as the audio versions at all the usual podcasting platforms, radio apps, things like that. TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Too many to list, but they're everywhere. Of course, today is the Andy Campbell Show. We talk football. And first of all, I'm joined by former Cardiff City Boro striker, the legend of the second worst town in the UK, the goal collector, Davy Jones's favourite son, and of course, Big Daddy Cams, Mr. Andy Campbell. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, it's been
excited,
good.
like a kid in a sweet shop at the minute.
That's it, mate, as well, isn't it? That's it. So, and of course, joining us, as you can see, just to the left of Andy Campbell, is former Manchester United, Middlesbrough, and Wales international, Mr. Clayton Blackmore. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Good evening. How are we all?
Indeed, it's good. Thank you for coming on.
Very pleased to have you on, Clay. As I say, I'm just delighted to have you on, mate. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I got the privilege to play alongside Clay when he came to Middlesbrough after he left United. It was just a surreal time in my life, my career, and to have you on here to go through your career is fabulous. Really looking forward.
It was good to play with you. You know,
hey.
When I was playing, I remember I played a lot in defence all the time, and you need somebody to play too. And that's where, you know, Paul Pogba's been getting a lot of stick, and he needs somebody he can play to.
That's it. Got to have a striker to pass to.
Just me boots back. Just me boots back out.
You and Rashford up front.
Don't know if you could keep up with him, and
Rashford,
quick. But yeah, like my obviously I'm Welshman as well. So like Clayton, you were yourself, Mark Hughes, and like Ian Rush. They were you were the first Welsh players who were kind of like, I knew your names, your positions, and I was a big fan of your free kicks as well. And so to have you on, it's just a genuine honour, sir. But
it's a pleasure.
We're going to talk a bit about some memorable games of yours later on. In particular, the Cup Winners' Cup final, which again is like, that's one of my earliest memories of watching football on TV, just because I remember watching it and watching that Mark Hughes. I think it's his second goal where he goes around the keeper,
and smashed it in as he could.
Yeah, that angle.
He's the only one who could have done that. He's the only one who could have done that.
Unbelievable finish. Yeah, just pure technique though, just everything he had, and you know what I mean. It must have been a privilege to play with somebody up there, because you knew exactly what you were going to get, Clay, didn't you? That He held the
Yeah.
ball up, you know what I mean? He would battle for every ball. He would never give up. He must have been an absolute defender's nightmare to play against, but a joy to play in your team because, you know what I mean? You could just hit a hopeful ball. He would never give it up.
Yeah.
And if you put it up to his chest and up to his feet, you were never, ever getting around him at all. You know what I mean? And he just seemed to
No,
get
you're
better
right.
with age as well.
No, but it's like I say there, whenever you're playing, if you're playing in defence, you need somebody to play to. With you had your pace. So I'm looking over the top for you. With Mark, he sort of mixed it up, but he knew if you could play anything, if you mishit your pass and it was a yard or two off him, he was still going to get it. He's like a Tasmanian devil. You know, it was going to be his ball and that's that. And, you know, he played the game that way all the time. But I think people didn't realise how good he was when he got the ball. You know, I grew up with him at 14, 15 in the schoolboy teams, and he was tearing England teams apart on his own. He'd beat 3, 4, 5 players with the ball. He was a very good dribbler with the ball, and obviously we all know he scores spectacular goals.
But on that note as well, there's a video going around when he was manager at Manchester City, and it's a finishing drill anyway, and I think Carlos Tevez knocks the ball over and he smashes a volley in training from about 35, 40 yards, right in the top goal scorer, right in the top corner, and he just celebrates like he's just does it naturally every second of every day. And I think that's what he does though, because you know what I mean, I remember him just pure technique, you know what I mean, and you know what I mean. But you just said there about Tasmanian Devil. Is that how he played the game, and is that how he trained as well? Because for me, I think that's not probably drilled into young players nowadays when they're coming in. You know what I mean? It's all about temperament, all about being calm off the pitch and on the pitch. But you know what I mean? Sometimes you can't teach that and can't drill that into people.
Well, I think we teach them more now about the social media. We had so many meetings on social media all the time, you know, making sure you don't put the wrong things on social media. But, you know, like you say, Mark trained the same way. And I think we were all the same. I trained the same way. I had to, I mean, to be fair, when you're a kid coming through at Manchester United, the day before a game, I might be playing on Saturday, but I don't know on Friday. So Friday, I'm training like I'm trying to get into the team. But come Saturday, I'm tired in the game.
And is that something? Is that a Fergie-esque? Because I'm going to reminisce now to what Bryan Robson did at Middlesbrough. That every Friday was competitive. 5-a-side would be competitive, like a match day on a Saturday. And I find that obviously the traits what Fergie had just followed and seemed to follow down to what the gaffer did at Middlesbrough. And you know what I mean? It obviously didn't do us any harm because it made everything competitive with that training matches, 5-a-side matches, running sessions. Everything seemed to be really competitive, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean it is. Yeah, I mean you play. You can't really jog through training, and but I mean it was when we went to Middlesbrough the first time. It was a bit over the top. It was even worse than what we were doing. You know, it was you were full out, but you knew what was a bad tackle. Yeah. And I think the first season of Middlesbrough, there was 60% of injuries came from training because you got people like Pollux in there. Everybody's mulling each other.
Yeah,
I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, but I think though as well, because you know, I mean, I'm not being disrespectful. I say Jamie's a good friend of mine, and obviously Alan Moore and Calvin, people who've obviously played in the same time with you when you joined, and but they're all of a sudden now training and playing with players with much more ability, lot quicker upstairs, so they can see a pass before everybody else. So sometimes a tackle looks a little bit probably worse, mistimed, because somebody's a little bit quicker upstairs. Everyone says about Teddy Sheringham, about Teddy being a little bit quicker upstairs, but I saw that when you lot came, that you were exactly the same. Even when the style of players the gaffer was bringing in, like Neil Cox, etc. You know what I mean? They were always a little bit of a higher quality than what we had at the time. So it just made me think that United's training must have been such a high standard every single minute of every single session because of the way that it was just the expectation to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we always trained hard with Sir Alex, but Fridays we didn't really do much. That was a big difference, which I found. I mean, in the first season, I think we were top of the league, and I picked up a little bit of an injury, and I came back, started training with the lads, and we trained on the Friday. And I just remember, I think they were playing Swansea in the cup away. It was in the I don't know, it was a League Cup, and I wanted to play, but obviously, you know, it was my first day back training on a Friday. And it went on for about an hour and a half. And I knew I couldn't play the next day anyway. I was so tired after doing the training session. And I'm thinking, you can't train like that and then be, you know, fresh for a Saturday.
Yeah,
I think it got back to the guy. Robbo found out then, and he was like, you know, I think he tuned it down a bit. You can't go training an hour and a half a day before a game. Like I say, I did it when
Well, all the sports science now, isn't it? All the sports science, you know what I mean? People are tapering things towards the needs of players. Some people need to do a little bit more. Some people need to do certain aspects of training. You know yourself and being a top coach yourself, Clayton, that, you know what I mean? It's about managing a week. It's not, you know what I mean? A match day doesn't start on a Saturday. A match week or preparation starts on the Monday after the last game, and it's about a progression and a progression through to get you ready. And obviously, all the success obviously that you've had in your career at United, Middlesbrough, and Wales, you know what I mean? Just shows that you played obviously for some top managers. So on that point, then, what do all the different managers, obviously the traits they have? Because obviously you started at United under Ron Atkinson. So how does he differ then to what Fergie brought into United when he came?
Well, I mean, I think Sir Alex was way ahead of everybody. The way the game's gone now, he was down that road then. You know, with Big Ron, we used to turn up, train. The training was about him, really. He'd be in the training session. You know, if you're playing balls out, he'd do a bit of finishing, knock the ball out wide to the wide men, and get people in. He'd be the ball player, playing the ball out wide. He'd have Copper Monday L's on, white socks on. Not Ray Wilkins trained one day without socks on, and then following week, Big Ron's out with no socks on. So I mean, it was more about Ron, but I liked him. He was a good manager. He was always bubbly, always. And he was, for me, he was a successful manager. But when Sir Alex came, you know, he went into depth on the opposition and everything else. And, you know, I think with Premier League football, you know pretty much everybody you're playing against, or you should do.
Yeah,
you know, you watch them every week. You watch, and so you know what they do. And you probably don't even need to do that now. What Sir Alex was doing, he had to do that then. I remember him and Archie Knox would go in and watch game after game after game every week. And, you know, they'd be getting stats on what all the other teams are doing and what the danger areas are.
I found. Go on, say.
I was just going to say, you look at like Mourinho, you look at Fergie, you look at Wenger, you look at all the most successful managers over the last sort of 20, 30 years, particularly in the Premier League, and they've all been high on stats. They look at every detail, or they've got a team of people who look at every detail for every game, all the teams they're playing. And I think, I would imagine, obviously, having not played professionally myself, but like I would imagine that attention to detail can sometimes be the difference between winning a game or drawing a game, or drawing and losing. I was going to ask you, Clayton, though, which one out of Fergie and Ron Atkinson was more? I think I know the answer, but I'm interested to hear, like, obviously your experiences. Which one of those were kind of more approachable in terms of day to day, just around the training pitch and around the place?
Well, I mean, we used to check Sir Alex just to see what kind of mood he was in. You can always, he get a bit nervous. Even when I went back coaching, he was obviously still at the club then, and you'd see him coming into the dining hall, and I'd have a little check to see, is it worth going over and say hi? You know, because you don't want to bump into him when he's in a bad mood.
You don't want to leave any football boots on the floor, do you, Clayton? Get kicked in the face like Beckham did?
Yeah, he couldn't do that again. not hard to be a miss it. He probably aimed at him, but he's probably, you know, I think he's got a bit lucky there.
Going back to your point on your side, you said there about Jose Mourinho, Arsene Wenger. You know what I mean? But I see Fergie's achievement is obviously a little bit, miles better because of the era that he came through football at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He came through and took over at United when things weren't great at United. You know what I mean? The players that he had at his disposal weren't the strongest. You know what I mean? Mourinho took over the best of the best all of the time.
Yeah.
Wenger took over at Arsenal, and he had a solid spine of the team. You know what I mean? He had the back five, which was solid, and the players he was able to bring in were massive. You know what I mean? Fergie relied on youth a lot and a couple of experienced players he already had. So, you know what I mean? How would you feel about all three of them and bringing them together into a comparison then, Claire?
Well, like you said, I think you were dead right with Mourinho. You know, they should never have won that competition. Porto, when they came to Old Trafford, it was a really scabby goal. And if they don't win that game, you might never see Jose again.
Yeah.
You know, and to be fair, they score the goal and then he runs and slides down the touchline. So everybody remembers him for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was such a bad goal. The keeper makes a good save, but we didn't react on the rebound. But, you know, it's history then. But, he knows good players. I mean, but I watch loads of fans and everybody knows good players. He when he first came to United, he went, I bought the best three players. The best one in Germany, was supposed to be Mkhitaryan. He didn't do that great there, but you could see he was a fantastic footballer. You've got Pogba, the best in Italy, and Ibra, the best in France. So he's gone out and bought the best around. As he looked at the team to fit him in, doesn't really matter. But he's gone out, and I think that's the way he works. He always likes, I think, because of the Drogba thing, they've always had the one up front, but he was like two strikers. For me, I like two strikers up front.
But then you look at him at Chelsea though, Clay. You got Drogba up front, you've got Iron Rob on one side, you have Damien Duff or something on the other side with a bit of pace, and it's if you've got Ibrahimovic up there on his own and you haven't got the pace out wide, it's so difficult, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's different if you've got Cristiano on one side and you've got Rashford the other, and you've got somebody else behind the strikers. It's such a different scenario. I'm similar to you. You're not an old school. For me, I was brought up on two centre forwards, someone who can hold the ball up, someone who can run behind. So you've got a good mixture. You've not got two little ones. You've not got two big monsters. You've got a good comparison and two who can play off each other. And it's not seen enough in football nowadays. I think it makes it easy. 4-3-2-1, and
for me, it makes it easier for the defenders. I mean, I've played centre back. You put one up front all day long, I'll be happy. You ask any centre half, you put two up, they're not so happy because they both have to work all game.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Centre halves in a game, if you ever watch the next game you watch them. They'll jog up to the halfway line and they'll jog back to the penalty box. That's what they'll do for pretty much most of the game.
I totally agree.
If you've got a brain, that's all they'll do.
I remember towards the end of my career, I'd played up front on my own once or twice. And I really didn't enjoy it because I was getting asked to play a different game than what I was used to because I wanted to run it the channel. And I was getting told to stay between the box and just hold the ball up. And so I'm feeling no, I'm not doing any work. I'm feeling a little bit lazy, a little bit lethargic because I'm not playing my normal game. And running in behind, running the channels. You know what I mean? And then leaving somebody else to do all that stuff what I don't enjoy doing is for me is just the way forward.
They bring you in to run in. What you've done is why they brought you to the club, and then they want to change it.
Yeah, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
That's why I think with people like Mourinho are a bit like that. They'll bring top players in on what they're good at, and then they'll try and change what they do.
Yeah, I've never understood that.
Playing them in different positions. But
Mourinho does that a lot. He signs those players, and then he plays them completely out of position.
He wants that. It was my decision. I saw that at United. He did that in one. I think he got somebody to take a penalty at Old Trafford, and it was a bit embarrassing. He's like, he turns around to the fans, told you.
Yeah,
got the right one to take it. You could have got a blind man to go out there, and he might still score. It's a penalty. It's a good chance you're going to score. But that for me made me think, it's all about him.
Yeah,
I think we already knew that, but that really backed up what we all thought. Yeah.
So we got a couple of questions come in. Johnny Wish has asked when did the players realise that Ryan Giggs was better than Lee Sharp or taking his place? I suppose.
Well, they're a little bit different players. I mean, Sharpie had pure pace. Sharpie was the better crosser. Put some fantastic balls in Sharpie, always. Scored some great goals. He was a very good player, Sharpie. It was a bit unlucky for Sharpie that then Ryan came along. Because Ryan's a bit more of a close dribbler. He dribbles with the ball close to his feet. Very sharp, changes direction like he's running in a straight line. Scary.
How good was he though, Clay? So obviously you got to play with him. We've got to play with him at both Wales and United, and you know what I mean. I know this is the big hoo-ha about Wales that he didn't like playing friendlies, or he didn't turn up for friendlies. He only turned up for the big games. But he's a big game player. You know what I mean. So he's gonna when he turns up, and he gives his lot. There's no more successful footballer who's graced the Premier League than Ryan Giggs, and that's games, goals, seasons, honours. You know what I mean. So how good was the man?
He was as good as they come. The only thing we've been doing a few podcasts, and we're trying to pick our best Man United team of all time. And some people put in Bestie in, and you can put anybody you want in, Ronaldo. And for me, Ryan's got to be in that team.
Absolutely.
I mean, some people are. I mean, for me, I think, barring Ronaldo, he's the best player I think's played at United.
I think he's the best player that's played in the Premier League myself.
I don't think I won't go on that one because Ronaldo's played in it.
Yeah,
Ronaldo was scary. Honestly,
Ronaldo's ridiculous, though, isn't he?
When he went to, we had the best of Ronaldo because he played right wing, and he was running
Yes.
the length of the pitch. He's dribbling all the time, running the length of the pitch, scoring great goals. And then when he went to Madrid, he's more now of he's more of a striker. He's a poacher. He can probably play for another 5 or 6 years. And
yeah, scary that though. It's scary the level all of a sudden he got out of United and then just progressed on and still to play now at Juve and to be playing the level he's at. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember him. I remember the first game when we played him, and I think John O'Shea played it. He had a fantastic pre-season, John, in America, and then he went missing for a month. Ronaldo played against him, and I never saw. Where's John gone? But he actually tore him apart, and that's why we bought him.
Was this the Lisbon? Was this a Lisbon game?
Yeah,
was it? Is this the famous one where he tried to, what the deal was getting done at half time during the game and just?
Well, yeah, definitely.
Didn't the players like Gary Neville and Co?
Yeah.
Didn't the players basically say to Fergie, gotta sign him, gotta get him?
Like I say, everybody knows a good player. I mean, it's not hard, but he was special.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody had a little moan at him when he was his first game. When I looked at him, I went, "Oh, he's scary, man. He's going to cause some problems."
I remember after that.
Quick.
Yeah, I remember after the first when he came on as sub. I think it was against Bolton. I might be wrong about the opponent.
Yeah,
but he came on as a sub and he did like the step overs as he does straight away.
Yeah,
and I saw loads of people mocking him and saying, waste the money. But I mean, that those last couple of seasons he had at United, very hard that anyone will ever match those. Not just for his contribution in assists and goals, but just the all-round quality and entertainment. Yeah,
I've seen him falling over, flick it 40 yards.
Those free kicks as well.
I found that game. I went to the cup final at Millennium Stadium when they beat Millwall. I think it was 3-0. I think he scored one of the goals that day, and he was unplayable. They couldn't get near him. He was just unplayable at the end. He was just he was unplayable all the time. He was just but at the time for me, he was only a young kid and he was still a bit raw. But you know what I mean. That's for me. And then when I see him play now, I think, geez, you know what I mean. That was always going to happen from the grounding he had.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean. Technically very good, but then to go into stature, to go into a proper strong man as well. And he's still got the footballing ability like he had when he was probably a 12, 13, 14-year-old boy. So you know what I mean. Fair play to him.
I think he's been a bit unfair done by as well. I know. Look, I like Messi. I think he's a fantastic player, but I think Kaká won it as well, the Ballon d'Or thing. And there's a few times he should have won that a few more times. But I think because he was at United, because most people don't like United, I think that was a big reason. And you could tell people don't like in England. They don't really like him.
No,
because he was at United. But,
I totally agree.
He's great to watch.
Yeah, well, I can imagine week in, week out. I bet it was, you know what I mean, because he played wide, he could play up front. You know what I mean. When he played with Wayne Rooney, I remember it was the goal against Bolton. And when it was a corner to Bolton and they broke away both of them and the pace was just out of this world. And you know what I mean? And it just shows how simple they made football look at times. It just makes you feel sick, really, that how easy. It was like going for a walk with your family.
I think you could have taken him on a race.
Yeah.
Without the ball.
Yeah, without the ball. He's quicker with the ball than I was without the ball.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it?
So Richie Thomas asks, can I ask Clayton what his experience was like playing for Bangor City in the Welsh Premier League and what attracted him to play at Farrow Road?
It was weird. It was the manager there. He managed me when I was 15. I played for the Welsh schoolboys under 18s, Myron Appleton, and he just rang me and said, "Do you fancy a game?" And I'd been out of the game. I just walked away from the game. I got really disillusioned with a few things up at Middlesbrough, then at Barnsley, and then at Notts County. The three teams just before. Within 2 years, I'd walked away from the Premier League and walked away from English football. And, it was 6 months in. I was missing the old playing because I was still quite fit. So I ended up, when I went and played there, I was there 6 or 7 years when I probably should have been playing somewhere else.
So why was that then, Clay? So why did you get disillusioned? Because you know what I mean, I've had the same conversation with players on here about coming out of football, about how you react, your body reacts, how your mental state reacts, about the about 1 minute being in football, the next minute not being in football, and you know what I mean. When I came out, the thing I missed the most was the changing room banter and just the everyday camaraderie. Really, you know what I mean. I really struggled with the transition and not doing it anymore. You know what I mean. You can't do it 1 minute and then not do it the next, and then never ever do it again. So you know that's basically what I struggle with.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. Most lads will struggle with the same thing. You know, I mean, I stopped playing because I just got disillusioned with people. I've been sheltered at United, and the backstabbing was a bit of backstabbing going on at United, at Middlesbrough, at Barnsley, and at Notts County. The 3 clubs I went to after United. I mean, it was. I mean, people probably don't even know. I mean, I only played the first season. We won the league, and then I must have had 5 games. I think the following season.
Yeah.
And there was somebody who was undermining me all the time, and I ended up finding out. I found out in the end who it was. I thought, because I remember, funnily enough, and the first 2 months into the season, somebody pulled me into his office and said, "Look, I know you don't like me, and I don't like you." That was his words, and I went, "Wow, there's nobody in football I don't like." So, and I knew there was a problem there.
That must be difficult to deal with, though.
Well,
there's personal and not professional.
Yeah, exactly. But I look, the guy who was there, he was, you know, he had, obviously they've got lads who were still there, and I was playing him. I think Higgy used to play right midfield. I was playing right midfield that year.
Yeah.
So it was somebody who liked Higgy, but I don't know if it was down that road. I mean, I'm in the paper then about falling out with Bryan Robson, and then I find out from the lads, obviously, I mean, I know Higgy really well. Higgy's a nice lad. I got on with him, and he's his best mate working in this paper. So the headlines of I've fallen out with Robbo and all this. I'm ringing Robbo and going, have I fallen out with you or something?
And I think this is the thing for me, because obviously I was just unaware of that. I think it was when you were a player and you're in a certain bubble and things. But you know what I mean, I played with you as an experienced player. You know what I mean. You're quiet. You're in and around the place.
I'm not.
You know what I mean? You weren't a shouter, you weren't a screamer. You know what I mean? You came in, you did your jobs, and then you went back. So that's maybe that's the problem. Yeah. But no, for me, it was. But you played in the cup final as well, didn't you? Middlesbrough, obviously, you played in the FA Cup final when we got beat by Chelsea.
Yeah.
You were sub against Leicester City when we.
That was a big one for me.
We gave the Heskey scored right at the end, right at the death. So what about both of them then? So let's start with the Leicester game, because that was the first one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember we played Leicester away in the league probably about 2 or 3 weeks before, or 4 weeks before. I played in the middle midfield. I scored. We beat them 3-1. I scored a free kick from about 25, 30 yards.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
Standard.
so we're watching the video now of that game, and I've got Viv talking to me, saying, "Oh, you're doing," because they've already named the team then, and Musto's in instead of me. And I'm saying, well, he says he's doing better than Musto. Then I'm like, you can't say that. He's playing, and you're leaving me out. So you know, I was a bit annoyed with the whole thing, but I ended up on the bench. So about 10 minutes in, I think Curtis got injured. He had a really bad time, and he looked like he was going to come off. So it looked like I was going to get on, but I never got on. And I think if I'd have got on, it would have been a different finishing. I think we'd have finished the game better. Because we stopped, we didn't give the ball to Juninho because they man-marked him.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think the longer the game went on, they grew into the game. I think it was, you know what I mean, obviously 0-0 90 minutes. Rav scored just in the first half extra time, and then after that goal, I think they thought it was game over, but they grew into the game a little bit. They had nothing to lose. They threw everything at us. You know what I mean? Muzzy is it, and Steve Claridge and Steve Guppy, Heskey. You know what I mean?
They had a good team.
They had a good side. That was the best Leicester City side, apart from the side which won the league. They had some really, really good players, and
but we just beat them 3-1. 3 weeks success
before. But we were a good side, though. We were a really good side.
We just beat them 3-1, and you know, and now I'm not in the team. But what was annoying me was the year before that, Robbo was telling me at times I'm playing on a Friday, and then come Saturday, he said, I've had a look at the video last year and he didn't play in the game. So I'm like thinking, and we did well, and I'm like, well, but you're never going to play me if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's where I don't think it was Robbo. It was somebody bringing the attention to him.
Right. Okay. And that's a little bit, and that's underhand a little bit, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because you know what I mean. For me, you're judged on you judge on your current performance, especially as a player, because you know what I mean. Football's not simple at times. You know what I mean? It can be so cutthroat. It's dog eat dog, and for me, you know what I mean. You're only as good as your last game, and that's what you're told. You know what I mean? So you can't take things for granted. If you've had a good game, you can't just rest on your laurels and think,
no.
You know what I mean? I can have an easy one today because I've had a good game last week. It doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Likewise, if you've had a bad game and you get an opportunity to play again, you've got to give it all you've got, because it's like you say, it's such a short career. And you know what I mean? And when you're having a bad year or a bad month or a long injury, you know what I mean? It can just send you out all over football at times. And you know what I mean? The amount of times that you hear people who've just fell out all over football, or they get disillusioned, or they don't play anymore for whatever reason. There's so many really good players who slip through the net because of that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But, you know, it happens, and there's nothing I can do about it. You know, I found out in the end, and, you know, I pulled somebody on it, but it was a bit too late then, I think.
What about then the second game, Clay? Because obviously it didn't start great together. I was similar to you. I was only a young kid at the time, so I was 17th man, so I didn't get on the bench. I was gutted. But by the time I got to my seat, we were already getting beat. So, you know,
was that the second game?
The Chelsea game.
Oh, the Chelsea game. Yeah. I mean, well, I remember us going out, and we just went out and we were just going out in 2s and 3s, and rather than going out in a team. And I mean, you know, you can nitpick about stuff, but I think the bottom line is the guy travelled too far. He went past Emo, I think, Iggy.
Yeah, Di Matteo.
He went past 2 or 3 people too easy, and then he's all of a sudden he's got a shot from distance. And when you shoot from that far out, I mean, the keeper got blamed for it. But when you're that far out, the ball's coming down, it's going up, and so you've got to hit it so high. Keepers usually don't get a chance from when you hit it that far.
Yeah.
And he just goes under the bar.
Yeah, well, Ben did an interview about that goal, and I read it a couple of weeks ago, and he said about starting positions, and he said he's too far off the line. Didn't expect him to shoot. You know what I mean? He went too far. And
but you are. I think they are. Goalkeepers are told to do it. I've done coaching at United, and we were doing a session, and the goalkeeping coach has got the goalkeeper lined up with the left hand post, and I'm saying, I'm going to shoot. You're making me shoot now. If I'm taking a free kick, I can see a full open goal.
Yeah.
I'm going to pretend to cross it, but I'm going to shoot for the right hand post. And he was like, he wouldn't have it. And then when I did it, the goalkeeper was nowhere near. I didn't score, but if I'd have had it just inside the post, he'd have scored because he never moved.
Yeah.
He was too far over. But his position, I don't think, you know, he was in line with it. But I think because it was coming in high, you know, we needed to stop him getting the shot off.
Yeah, straight away. I totally agree. Do you think, obviously, that Chelsea game? Do you think that the result and what happened the week before at Leeds with the relegation? Do you think that had an impact? You know what I mean? Because obviously, it doesn't help. Does you get relegated? But obviously, there was a bigger picture that season, wasn't there? You know what I mean? Obviously, they got relegated through being deducted points at Blackburn Rovers. So. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, you know what I mean? We've mentioned it on this show. You know what I mean? Because people have asked me the question, and I spoke about. You know what I mean? That things, obviously, Keith Lamb, who's not at the football club anymore, you know what I mean, had a massive part to play in the demise of that season and what things, bigger picture involved. It was a
big mistake saying we couldn't get docked points.
It was the biggest mistake that football clubs ever made, because, you know what I mean, I've spot the gaffer same as you have, and apparently Roberto Carlos, you know what I mean, etc. All these kind of players which were rumoured to be coming in would have only been unbelievable for the football club, and where that club might have been gone on the journey could have been frightening, really, you know. But relegation obviously scuppered that. So
when you got Bryan Robson at the helm as well, I mean, that's why we got those players in. I mean, Ravanelli he's come to Middlesbrough. He just won the Champions League. I know,
but that was we had the same conversation with Stewie Downing last week. That I remember training at the prison, and I remember watching the Champions League game because Juventus won 1-0. I'm sure he scored, and he's just stood there. And I remember talking to Mark Sunbell saying, "I've just seen Ravanelli," and one of the lads, I think it was Stevie Vickers, said, "Don't be so stupid. Why would Ravanelli come here?" I'm thinking, yeah, probably. Yeah, you're right though, because why would he come to Middlesbrough? You know what I mean? Middlesbrough's voted the second worst place to live in the country, and all of a sudden he's playing for Middlesbrough.
Could have been first worst back then. Could have been
I was really worried when somebody said, if you get a house, make sure you got a garage for your car. I said, why? He says, acid rain. I said, acid rain. I said, I'm going to be playing football in it every day.
Hey, hardened you. It's giving you a tan, Clay. That's what it's giving you.
I already had this.
Yeah. So Mark Sherwood was asking, having played for Robbo at United and he was captain, and then obviously you went to play for him when he was manager at Boro. What was that like? What was the difference? Was it difficult to go from teammate to gaffer, or was it a natural progression because of the kind of guy he was?
Good question.
Well, I think it was harder for Robbo, to be honest, because he was still playing. But I mean, obviously he could still play, and it was great for Middlesbrough. We've now got the captain of England, Man United, coming and playing. He's getting on, but the boy can run. He can run all day, Robbo. He's one of the. We used to have great, some great laughs at Sir Alex's team talks, because he'd be like, right, get at the right back. The right back's 33, and we're like that. We all look at Robbo, who's 35. And he's trying to have a go at the 33-year-old, saying he's too old. And we're all laughing and going, what about? And because for me, it doesn't make. I've watched Linford Christie won the gold medal at 38. That's a load of rubbish. But it was, for me, it was fine because I got on. I think towards the end, I'd been with Robbo for 16 years.
I think everyone respected him, though, Clayton, so much as a player from what he achieved, that I think when he took over as manager, I think especially being a young lad and watching, and I know that from talking to Steve Vickers and Curtis and Higgy and people that we were in so much of an awe about the man, that it was just, how could you not but respect him for what he's achieved in the game? England captain, won Premier League, won FA Cups. How can you not respect somebody and want to play for somebody like that? Because if somebody like that comes to your football club, it's going places, because Steve Gibson wasn't stupid. Steve knew exactly what he wanted to do and what he wanted to achieve. Yeah. To bring in the manager was just of that caliber was just an unbelievable thing, because it just coincided with a new ground, new training ground. Everything was getting put in place behind the scenes, but you needed somebody to front it, and you couldn't have picked anybody better than him to front it.
No, you're right. I mean, I think it was very sad that, I think because he wanted the club to do so well, he's gone out and brought somebody in, didn't he? And I thought that was a mistake.
He brought Terry in. He brought Terry in. Yeah.
Terry Venables in. It's it undermines him a bit then. But he's it's just another head and another voice. It's just another opinion. That's all that is. Yeah. I mean, people get carried away with, because he brought somebody else in. They think, oh, well, he can't handle it now.
I mean, it coincided, Kurt. It coincided, Claire, with where we did really well. I remember when Terry came in, we beat Arsenal away, and we kept clean sheets against. I think we drew United, and But who knows if that would have happened anyway? So I think people were just putting two and two together and coming up with five, and thinking that he'd lost his desire, he'd lost his magic, and that was just further from the truth. And then the day that he resigned was just, it was awful. It was heartbreaking for me, and that was the end for me really there at that club. That was me done, more or less. So it was like I'd lost part of me when the manager was starting to go. Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, I lost it a year before that. Yeah. Or 2 years before. No. I mean, we had some good times, and I think the club's probably, when Robbo was in charge, it probably went through its best periods of all time. I would have thought, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know that obviously they've had success under Steve McLaren, and being back in the Premier League. But I mean, for a sustained period, from the transition from Ayson Park to the Riverside, and to bring in the kind of footballers who they'll never grace that pitch again. I don't believe, because there's too much money involved in football now.
I think what you said with that season where obviously the Blackburn with the 3 points, but we went to the cup finals and all that, and the 2 hours we were playing extra times, and the games were racking up. And I remember in that Leeds game, Leeds hadn't left a goal in since Christmas, and it was 1-1, and I was dead on my legs. We needed a goal to stay up pretty much, and I was like that. I went like that. Get me off, because I can't do anything else. Yeah. My legs were so tired because of what we've done, and I'd recognised that. I knew I couldn't do anything. And I remember ball going up to Becky, and he should have turned on it because he was clean through, and he didn't know. The ball's gone up to Mikael Beck, and he should have turned and run a goal. He was on the edge of the box, but he came away from it. He didn't know what was behind him. He didn't realise he was playing through.
Heartbreaking, and it coincided because I spoke to Brian Dean, because Brian Dean scored the goal for Leeds that day as well. It was just know Brian really well, and you know what I mean. I've never forgiven him. I don't like him anymore. But,
but again, we scored a goal against him, and like Janino, he looked shot as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
and in the final as well. He's playing 2 hours of football, and he's a fit guy, but. We relied on him a lot to make things happen for us.
Mentally tiring, physically tiring. It just caught up on everybody. I think before probably the week before that game was really for me, and that was probably 2 weeks after. And we probably should have been safe. We could have rested everybody for that game. And no,
it doesn't help when you're at Old Trafford. You're 3-1 up, and then Ravanelli goes off to get himself fit for the cup final.
Exactly, and then they come back and draw 3-3. Yep. Yeah, no, that's not great. Yeah, not great.
But that's the difference. You stay on, you win the game, and.
That's a big play. Well, they're big players. You've just said it there, Clay, about reliant on players. You know what I mean? But players also need to realise that. You know what I mean? Because if you know yourself, if you're fronting as a centre forward and you're a big player like Fabrizio was, you know what I mean? You've got to see the game out. You know what I mean? Unless you're crawling off the pitch, you know what I mean? You see the game out. Forget about what's happening next week or the week after. This is the most important game, because if you win that game, you're safe. The other games are irrelevant, because you could have got a week off next week. It just would have been. You know what I mean? I know he did, but
he was wrong. He should have stayed on. You're right.
Yeah.
But so it was Rav, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we've got a few more questions. James Costley would like to know which football team do you most dislike?
Is that a trick question?
Wow.
They play in red.
Yeah,
I know.
36 miles away.
Si, is that yours as well?
No comment. I'm completely impartial. No, I
got to say, I actually like Klopp. I think he's a good manager.
He is an exceptional granted, I say, through gritted teeth.
He's better at Dortmund, though, wasn't he?
Yeah. He's at Dortmund. He was incredible. Yeah, Dortmund, best manager in Europe at Dortmund. In answer to your question, and I'm not a fan of Liverpool, Leeds.
Leeds.
Swansea
as well, I suppose.
You got a long list, haven't you?
Yeah, it's those three. They really.
Why? What does Swansea do? What do they beat us in?
No, Swansea are just they're everything which Cardiff are not, shall we say?
We get loads of abuse now on these chats here.
Yeah, I will. Also, Gaz wants to know: do you think the PFA do enough to support retiring players? That's a good question.
No.
I wouldn't think PFA do much at all.
I don't think they do. I don't think there's enough education on the transition for players to retire or going out of the game. Because I won't say retire, because some people aren't fortunate enough to have a career enough to say retire. Because if you don't play enough games, it's not retirement. It's just going out of the game. And I don't think you can educate, or there's enough education to get players ready for it. You know, I remember when I came out of the game and I was lost for 6, 9, 12 months, and I went to the PFA because I was desperate about a situation. I didn't know where I was going, where my life was going to go, and luckily enough, they pointed me in the right direction. But I saw and seek that help, and you know what I mean. If that was came to me a year earlier, I would have been in such a better position, because I'd wasted a year of my life. I was mentally, physically drained from just what was going on. So it was it was a bit of a mess, really. But you know what I mean. I'd like to think that there's people now set up in and around clubs to help them. But
I think there are, aren't there? There's supposed to be a PFA member at every club.
Supposed to be, but if you get released, though, Clay, what happens if that's the person who gets released? It just doesn't.
Yeah, then somebody has to take over. The PFA should be into the club then to get somebody else to do that job.
Yeah. On one of the mental health in sports series, I had a sports psychologist lady on, and her name has completely slipped me, so I apologise to her immensely. But she said not just the PFA and the FA, etc., they don't do enough to support retiring players, but particularly the really young players, not even necessarily players who get dropped, drop out of the game in their early 20s maybe. But the ones who are in the academy system from like under 7s all the way up to under 16s, 17s, and then when the professional contracts come about, they don't get them, and then they completely drop out of football. But not just that, it sets them back in their life can be years afterwards, because since they were 7 years old, they've played academy football. They've thought, I'm going to be a professional footballer. That's what I'm going to do. That's all I need to do. I'm just going to be football. And then suddenly they don't get that professional contract. Their mental health suffers, and they haven't perhaps got the education that they would like, or qualifications to go and do something else. I guess I'm asking, do you think, whether it's the PFA or the FA or whichever governing body could do more to support those kids?
Yeah, well, obviously there's a lot of people working for them. I mean, like you say, after when people finish, I mean, there's a lot of people who've had massive problems, and the PFA are there, but people don't go to them. The PFA need to see it. It's not even people like Gaza. He's such a big character. For me, they needed to get hold of him ages ago, and he's well known right throughout the world. Yeah. You're talking about people that nobody knows about, so there's definitely not going to be enough around to look after them. So
I think players. I think clubs have a duty of care.
Yeah, I was going to say,
the club has a duty of care. You've got a boy who's 7-year-old. He signs for United, say, for example, and he gets dropped at 16, 17. You know what I mean? So I've known kids at Leeds, Middlesbrough, who go 2 days a week out of school and go into the clubs and do training, a little bit of education. You know what I mean? So then, if they don't make it, you know what I mean? The clubs have that duty of care to make sure that they've smashed their GCSEs and give themselves an opportunity to fall back on something. Because if you don't have anything to fall back on, you in life, you're screwed, aren't you? So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just,
No, but I think
go on.
In football, it's a hard one because I've seen players in the academy, and there was one I remember, and I thought he's not really good enough. And 2 years later, he was still at the club at 16. And we could have probably told him at 14 that we don't. Yeah. You need. What they needed to do is tell his parents that he needs to really start cracking down on something else. Because unless he changes, because you can change. You can be having a bad time in football, and all of a sudden spike. I've seen it. I've seen it happen with players who you think's not going to make it, and then he's done it. He's not really made the first team, but he's become a footballer.
Or he could have. He could have gone. He could have gone 14 to another club, a lesser club, and maybe he's played League 2 football, League 1 football at a 17, 18-year-old age, and progressed through or non-league football like an Ian Wright.
I know United used to do that. United used to. When a player was coming to the end, they would tout his name around all the other clubs. Yeah, and everybody's interested because he's coming from Manchester United.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my next point. That I think that was a good thing about, and I knew a lot of lads who left Man United at a young age, and they all fell into a good club. They all had another opportunity before. You know what I mean? Better than everybody else, because you're not dropping too far down the ladder.
On your shoulder.
Yeah, straight away, and it's you know what I mean. It's a big selling point, isn't it? Big selling point for a footballer.
It is, because if he's been there for that long, they think, he must have something.
Must have something,
yeah.
So Deeks there says he thinks that education should be equally as important during development years at any club, and I know at Cardiff they put a lot of focus on the education side of it. So once you get into the full academy, if you're not pulling your weight in high school, I'm talking, if you're not pulling your weight and behaving and doing the work and putting the effort in school, they will, at extreme sort of situations, they will take the football away to make sure you do the education, which that of course should be the way. And also, Alan there says he's seen a friend of his child has been through it at Cardiff. Luckily, he ended up at Newport as a pro. But I think there is a duty of care that the clubs have got to take, as well as the PFA or the FA or whoever. There's enough people within football to help these kids along, and that's not to say that every kid needs someone, when they do drop out of football, to constantly be in contact. But it's about preparing them for the possibility that they might not be a professional footballer. So they might have to go into a different avenue or a different career choice. And it's just preparing them mentally for it, and their parents mentally for it.
I mean, I've got a big one with the Premier League. I think the Premier League brought the ruling where, you have to play for a team within an hour of where you live.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, right, here's my dig at this one. When I was 15, I played against Terry Gibson, who just played for Spurs in the first team. I'm still in school, and I'm playing at Old Trafford in the semi-final of a youth cup against Terry Gibson, who's just played for Spurs first team. Now, if I was growing up now, I would have to play for Swansea or Cardiff till I'm 16, and then I'd have a price on my head to go to Manchester United. Why?
Compensation.
When a kid leaves school, why has he got price on his head?
Yeah.
And the thing is, Clayton, this is where it becomes awkward because, you know what I mean? Because it's this word compensation. Because I've seen it happen to loads of young players. You know what I mean? Because it's not a transfer fee as well. So if you are signed at Cardiff or Swansea, then they deserve a transfer fee as well, not compensation, so to speak. So it's, you know what I mean? But then I say that before that you shouldn't be there. You should be playing for the team that signed you, United, whoever, etc.
Up to 16, before you leave school. When you're 17, you've left school. Then you can put anything you want. But when you're leaving school, you walk out of school, and you're looking for your first job. You shouldn't have a price on your head.
No,
Wales lost. We had a lad called Carl Jones, fantastic player. He played left wing for the Welsh schoolboys. He tore England apart. He was at Cardiff. I don't know. You might even know him. You might have heard of him. Little winger. And Sam Aman wouldn't. I think he put 200 grand on his head. He came back.
Doesn't surprise me.
Came back to Porthelly, where he lives, and he's still there now. I actually got him playing for Bangor City, and he was brilliant at 16. And I'm like, Wales lost a really good player there.
Well, because of that,
don't have a big
of the price.
Big pool to pick from, and it's just the
you
price,
can't
isn't
afford
it?
to lose players like that. But that's just one player. Wales, so England will be doing it as well.
Well, the thing is, it's happening all the time, and then also you've also got that some teams have found probably not now because I think the UEFA and FIFA have got a bit wise to it, but people were flying families over from Spain, from France, from Italy. Posting them in schools and in areas just so they can play for the clubs. Where there's local talent in Manchester, for example, who then get forgotten about because they've had their place taken by somebody who's come from a different country, and that's just such a cutthroat industry.
There was a boy who played alongside my son in Cardiff system. So it would have been 2 years ago. So he'd have been under 8s, under 9s, and his mum was Spanish, but they lived in Cardiff. He was born in Cardiff, and they've moved to Spain now. He plays for Barcelona. He's a very exceptional footballer. Like, he could have played with under 16s at that level, at that age, and been all right, apart from his size. But they got around it. Like, he should have been playing for Cardiff because he lived in Cardiff. He was from Cardiff, and with that hour rule, there's no way he should have been going anywhere else. But somehow, he's ended up. Their family's moved out to Spain.
Money talk.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? And at the end,
all they have to do is get the parent a job, don't they?
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Job, house, and suddenly it's sorted. So I just want to get through some of these questions. Sorry, lads. Adam Frost asked there. He says, Clayton, in your opinion, who is the greatest Welsh player of all time?
It'd have to be Ryan.
Oof.
Oof. I know John Charles. No, are you talking about the best player?
Yeah, and that's difficult.
For me, the best player is Ryan. There's been nobody better than Ryan.
Do you think he's better than Gareth Bale?
Yeah.
I'm not saying he is. I'm just asking the question.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Oh, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Gareth Bale's a great player, but when you've got Ryan running at you, zigzagging, it's...
Yeah, I think Giggs in his pomp was unplayable, wasn't he?
Ryan was scary. Ryan was winning games by... We were 3-0 up after 60 minutes in Champions League games every week.
Imagine the two of them, though. You know what I mean? On both. What I mean? And this is Clayton said there about all-time United teams. You know what I mean? Look at the talent that Wales have had. You know what I mean? Over a course of time, especially my lifetime. You know what I mean? Been lucky enough to see some games at the Millennium Stadium, being lucky enough to see some games on TV, and you know what I mean, some unbelievable players. If you could just bring them all together, and same as England, you know what I mean, because England have massively underachieved. forever in my lifetime. So if you could,
well, they need to start bringing that. They need to bring that rule in when when in the academies, when you draw a game, you go to penalties. You might win some of them.
What's his pick on England Day?
Wow.
I mean, for me, that's the only thing they failed because they don't take penalties.
Yeah, well,
I mean, we practiced and practiced. We were in a tournament under 18s when I was 6, and we practiced and practiced because we knew if we drew, it would go to a penalty shootout.
Not many people could take a penalty like you, though, Clay. Not many people could do that.
Blindfolded.
Yeah, you were unbelievable, though. You were unbelievable. I just remember your technique, though. It was just scary. But then you look at United, though. Like obviously, you could take penalties. Dennis Irwin, free kicks, penalties. Ryan Giggs, free kicks, penalties. You know what I mean? Mark Hughes could put his foot through it. The Brian McClares, it was just inundated with, even the gaffer. You know what I mean? Inundated with just pure talent in situations like that. Because you know what I mean? There's pressure involved in those kind of moments in football, and you know what I mean. And you can't never replicate that. You can practice. Yeah. But during a pressure situation, you've got to have the balls to get on with it and do what you do in training, because you need to replicate what you do. You know, so it's
funny. It's a skill. Something happened, and I think we had a free kick the other week, a few months ago now, United, and Fred took it, and I'm like, I think Mata was there. Mata was right by him, and I'm like, and Fred took it, and what came out was that he took some free kicks in training the day before, and he was very good. And I'm like, it's much different, in training. Yeah. There's no pressure on you.
No, exactly.
All you're doing is exactly the same thing. I can tell when I watch somebody take a free kick, I know if they've practiced the day before. You can pretty much tell.
But that's doing it off your own standards, doing it. You know what I mean? Because I know how much in a short space of time when I played with you, that I knew how much you practiced. You know what I mean? If that's before training, if that's after training, if that's during training. Because the skill of penalties, free kicks, corners, drilling balls, passing, shooting techniques. You know what I mean? You can't just turn up on a Saturday or a Tuesday and just think, I'll do it today. You know, you've got to replicate, practice all of the time. And my advice to any young kid would be, you know what I mean, just to get on the training pitch early, do your practice, 10 balls, goalkeeping, kicking, whatever it may be. And I don't think you see that enough of players. You know what I mean? You've got the best players in the world, the Ronaldos. You know what I mean? You read the stories. You know what I mean? You watch the documentaries, and you just see the extra hours a day put on the training ground, in the gym. You know what I mean? It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. No, you've got to. You only get out. For me, I've always said to people, you only get out of football what you put into it. If you put a lot into it, you'll get a lot out of it.
Yeah, dedication. Yeah.
Yeah,
spot
definitely.
On. So Richie says, who would be your favourite football icon that you looked up to before or during your career? Oof, that's a tough one on the spot, isn't it?
No, you won't believe it.
I like them ones, though. Good.
You won't believe it. When I was 10, I was watching the World Cup, and Scotland were playing, and they put a speed limit to somebody's shooting, 70 mile an hour. So I followed him, and it was Peter Lorimer.
Wow.
Leeds United.
Didn't expect that one.
Leeds.
Leeds. Wow.
Dirty
so
Leeds.
I actually supported Leeds between 10 and 14.
Oh, I bet you haven't said that. I bet you haven't said that in the languages.
I was going to say.
Oh, that's the other week.
Get booed out, you.
They weren't a bad.
That's good. To be fair, they had a really good side. Then they you know what I mean. That I remember my dad telling me stories about. You know what I mean, about the old Leeds teams, and you're on about Norman Hunter, and you're on about all these kind of players, and you know, it's just and to be fair, even Gordon McQueen when he obviously came to the Borough, you know what I mean, tells his stories, and you know what I mean, and laughs and jokes about that, won FA Cups and won this and won that and played in World Cups. That you can't, you laugh and you joke, but you can't help but respect someone who's been at that level, because been there, done it, wore the t-shirt.
The funniest thing I've ever seen is Gordon McQueen running 30 yards past 3 or 4 people like a winger. The maddest thing you've ever seen. He was nutmegging people.
Can't imagine that.
He's one of the funniest men in football.
He's one of the funniest men ever. He's the funniest man I've ever met.
We used to take corners, and Big Ron was saying, right, we'll do this corner, and Gordon would say, what about that one where you just cross it in and I head it into the top corner?
Quality.
He just comes out with that in the middle of a team talk. Well, that works.
But I think Gordon was always good at that, because Gordon was always good at taking the pressure off you, that you'd be having a bit of a bad time, and he'd question something, and then he'd go about, oh, I've scored in the World Cup, or I've played in the World Cup, and straight away everyone is just, the whole changing room is just go crease, we're laughing, and then it just calm you down, and you just forget where you were for that split second, for that moment, and it would just be able to go and enjoy your football, take the pressure off you as a young player, because that's what he was really good at. And I think that's the way that all three of them worked, him, Vivian, and the gaffer, just seemed to work really well together.
So Derek Brazil, your former teammate, ask Clayton about the lovely Capri he had when we were in digs together. He took me out in it once. Fast and Furious, the original.
Yeah. Is he watching now, Buzz? Hi, Buzz.
Yeah.
Top man, he is. Top man.
Yeah, he's been on. He's a
top man.
Good lad. Right. There was a question. Oh, yeah. James Costley asked, do you think that Ollie is the right man for Manchester United?
At the moment, he's doing all right. For me, he's going to be judged on the next few signings. We need to bring in a couple more players. I don't know why we've left Smalling leave, because for me, he's 6'5", he's quick, and that's all you need from your centre back. I don't need somebody who's world class on the ball. It helps, but as long as he's there to defend, and he's improved. He's played for England. And he does okay. He's better than some of the ones we've got.
I think his biggest problem is he made mistakes in some high-profile games, and they just, unfortunately, that just magnifies those mistakes more so than if it had been against, I don't know, like a Bolton Wanderers or something, and they'd won 4-1. It wouldn't have mattered. But I think it was a Man City game and a couple of others, and it's just unfortunate. But I agree with you. Actually, I think he's quite a
No, he's good.
He's still a very good defender.
He's improved. For me, he's improved since he came to the club. He was an amateur. Played 12 games at
Maidstone, wasn't he?
Fulham. Yeah, played 12 games at Fulham, and then he was at United. And that same year, he was playing for England.
Is this long term? Then is this long term? Is he left for good at Roma, or is he on loan?
I don't know. Well, no,
I think he's on loan
till the end of the season, wasn't it? It was till the end of the season. But we needed him back. I mean, for me, we needed him back earlier.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Christmas.
It'd be interesting to know where the manager then sees his priorities. Then is he going to keep him? Is he in his plans? Is he looking offloads?
Exactly. So, well, I think we need to get rid 2 or 3 centre backs. We've got way too many, and for me, a lot of them are not as good as good as they need to be. But for me, again, we need to get a top striker as well, a goal scorer. I'd love to see Lewandowski, but I don't know if that would happen.
I think though, Clay, as well, though, with the players that United have had in the past, you're looking at the Mark Hughes, the Andy Coles, the Van Nistelrooys, even the Ollies. You know what I mean? That you can't. You just the Cristianos, the Wayne Rooney's,
Van Nistelrooy.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you can't. Dwight York. They've had goal scorers in abundance forever, and you know what I mean. When you haven't got one, you realise how much you miss them. Then you know what I mean. And for me,
going to be the best.
Well, yeah. Well, Rashford as well. I feel sorry for Rashford, because if Rashford was playing up front with a Van Nistelrooy, you know what I mean, he would get so many more goals because he'd be playing.
He'd learn as well.
Yeah, he'd get more scraps. Yeah, and I think he'd become a better footballer, all-round footballer as well, which would benefit England as a country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Playing for because he'd be playing more football. You know what I mean? He's such a top talent and a top player, but I do feel sorry for him sometimes when I see him up front and he's playing against 2 monster centre halves and he's not playing his normal game and he's a little bit isolated at times. And you know
he needs to be running at people.
Yeah, and that's when he gets some of his joy and he goes out wide and he gets more joy. But then he's still got the same problem. He's still got Martial up front on his own, for example, and it's
But I think both Martial and Rashford play better if they're playing kind of just off someone where they can run in behind or run at players.
I think anybody would do.
Yeah,
but they don't get the chance, do they? Don't get the opportunity, do they? They never play them together, and they never play them with anyone.
I was going to go. We were talking about Ibra earlier on, and Ibra was up front in a game, 70 minutes, right? And we've not looked like scoring. And we put Marshall up front, and I think Carrick's picked the ball up just outside the box, knocks it just over the halfway line to Ibra. He flicks it on, we go through and score. Within a minute of putting 2 up front, we've scored because they're playing off each other.
Yeah. I noticed this year that in the Premier League generally, I've noticed more teams playing two strikers again. So I do wonder whether over the next few years it'll come back, because they seems to go in and out of fashion, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the foreigners.
It is tactics. Everyone's gone down that route, haven't they? 4-2-3-1 and three players behind the one, and
Never got that.
It doesn't work for everybody. It's not. For me, 4-4-2. Everyone knows a job. You know what I mean? You defend as a unit, as your four, you double up. You attack as a unit. Your fullbacks can bomb on. For me, I think sometimes you forget the fundamentals of the game. And I'm not saying I'm a coach, I'm a manager, but I think as a centre forward, I know that I've got someone to do the stuff I don't like. I know I'm going to get crosses. I know I'm going to get midfielders bombing on. So I'm covered there 3 times before I need to do my own job.
Yeah. No. Spot on. 4-2-3-1. Who brought that one up anyway?
I think Jose brought it up.
I was just about to say Mourinho. Yeah, Mourinho.
That's the worst system ever.
Yeah.
Why would you have 2 sitting midfielders?
Yeah, it just doesn't. Well, Barcelona did it, don't they? When with Xavi and Iniesta, and with them, it's the keep ball sesh. That's all it was.
Yeah, I think somebody's looked at it and gone, all right, 4-2. I mean, most of the games I've watched with Barcelona lately, they've been 4-4-2.
Yeah,
but you're
on 4-3-3. They've got Suarez, you've got Dembele, Messi, Griezmann. You know what I mean? None of those players play midfield or behind. So you've got, you know what I mean? You're inundated with attacking talent and players. So just use it as effectively as you can.
Yusuf asks you, Clayton. He said, "How would you deal with social media if you were still playing now? Was it easier to be a footballer back then?"
I don't know. It wouldn't bother me. Social media. I don't think it'd make any difference to me.
What about camera phones? What about camera phones, Clay? Because they can, you know what I mean? I've heard like Rio Ferdinand complain about, and Wayne Rooney complained about. I'm going back when they first came out, that out for a meal with the missus and kids and stuff, and straight away someone puts a camera phone in your face and wants a photo while you're just chilling out, and you know what I mean. And then straight away that photo's in on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. So
and then the papers pick it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously that's a big problem if you just want to go out for a meal or even if you're out and having a session.
Yeah.
But you know that's always a problem now. If they want to go out for a drink, there's a good chance they're going to get a picture taken of them. So, you know, it's not as fun for them now as it was for us.
But it's exactly the same, though, isn't it? In the same thing, somebody can still be in the same pub as you are. You know what I mean? The camera phone, it's still word of mouth. Before in the papers you'd use the word allegedly instead of having the picture, so you still get shouted out. You still get shouted out on Monday anyway. So, that was Yusuf there. Yusuf, a huge Boro fan. He goes to every single game up and down the country. He's the biggest Boro fan I know.
Man.
He's massive. He's huge. He's a lovely fellow as well. So, top man Yusuf, absolutely legend of a man. Legend.
Chris says, if you had one bit of advice that you could give to a young player who was starting their career now, what would it be?
Work hard. You know, you've got to listen to the coaches. I'm not sure that all the coaches know what they're doing or what they're saying, but you know, and the big thing for me is watch the best players and try and copy them. You're only trying to be that. If you can't be as good as the players you're watching on the telly, well, you're probably not going to be a footballer. But you've got to work and try and copy them, see what they're doing in a game and copy. I get really annoyed that I had a few run-ins with a few coaches when I was at United about we overpassed too many short passes. And their biggest I said, who's your favourite player? And they say, Paul Scholes. And he goes, look, Scholes used to hit 50, 60-yard balls. Where did he learn to do that? Did he not do it in our academy?
Yeah.
You know, you've got to learn where to play longer balls. Passing 10 yards, if you can't do that, you shouldn't be playing football.
I totally agree. I don't think it works in British football. I mean, in the mentality, the way that we play, and I think we've had that direct style of play printed on our foreheads for so many years. Yeah. Yes, now the foreigners are in. We do that, but it's a mix up for me. And I think you can pass short, suck teams in. And then you can go direct, you know. But it's not a ball smash forward. It's you're trying to suck defenders out to then put the ball over the top. It's cultured play. It's just clever play. It's not, you know what I mean. We just need to. And I think sometimes we need to mix it up a little bit more.
It worries me that people play short all the time. It's like Arsenal. They started last year. They were playing out from the back and they give a couple of stupid goals away, and you're thinking, wow, if I'm the manager, I'd be going mental.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place to play. If a team's got a full press, it's like they're not taught. If somebody's closing you down, they've got 3 attacking, closing the defenders down. Don't try and play out. Because all you're doing is giving them a chance to win the ball, and if they do win it, 90% they'll score.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. And I think sometimes, you know, I mean, the more you play at the back and you overplay, and then the goalkeepers try and play. My biggest bugbear, especially in football, Premier League, is goalkeepers. You know what I mean?
That's why they didn't goal, isn't it? Because they can't play.
Exactly. Who's goalkeepers, especially when I grew up, you know what I mean? Normal things that they couldn't do is they couldn't pass and they couldn't run. You know what I mean? So that's why they're in goal. You know what I mean? So normally that's a normal. That was normal. Now they can pass, shoot, run. They can do everything now. It's just unfair. It's unfair.
Yeah. There's a bit more pressure. To be fair, there's a lot of pressure on them as well. Because if you make a mistake, it's a goal.
That's a goal straight away. Yeah, totally agree.
Clayton, I'm going to ask you this one. Craig has asked this a couple of times. I missed it, and there's so many questions. He says, in your time with Wales, we were so close on many occasions and had some superstars up front like Rush and Hughes, Saunders, Giggs. He said, if you could choose 2 current players to add to the side that you were in, which would they be, and why do you think they would improve the current? The
Bale and Ramsey.
Bale and Ramsey. But Aaron Ramsey is the best player, in my opinion. In the Wales team.
Ramsey, we struggle because he's the engine room.
Well, if you look at that,
more running.
Yeah, you look at the Portugal game when in the Euros where Bale was out and we struggled. Ramsey was out.
All we needed, that team we had. I mean, we got unlucky with some of the draws. We drew Holland and Germany in a group, man, to qualify.
It's incredible, that, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. Holland won the group, and Germany had to beat us in their last game to qualify best second place. And we were 1-0 up against them in Cologne. And we ended up, we should have scored in the last minute. We had an open goal, and I think Mark Hazelwood headed it over the bar. And he shouldn't even be there because it was dropping to Mark Hughes and Rushy. And then Germany are out. Germany go over there and they win it. They win the World Cup. So we've lost to the 2 best teams in the world. Who knows what we would have done if they got over there? No, but we've played them. We've had them a few times in groups, and it's, you know, we'd beat Germany, and then we'd moved up, I think, a space to like 150th. I looked the other way. We beat Belgium a few years ago, and then all of a sudden we're in the top 10. It's great. It's great now. It's great for Wales. You know, if you're up there, you get a better draw. But we always got a hard draw. And I think in the old days as well, the pitches were bad. All the pitches are very, very good now, and teams play football everywhere. So we had a nucleus of about 9 or 10 who played in the top league, and then the other 10, it was 16 in the squad, but there'd be about another 10. They were playing in the lower leagues, and they would play on a Saturday. And they're playing in mud up to their necks. The managers are probably telling them to get rid and boot it, and then it's a kick and rush, which is what I think everybody thinks British football used to be like, which it was in the lower leagues. But in the top league, it was always good players, and they tried to play football on bad pitches. But
so here's a question for you then. So if your side, your Welsh side, and this Welsh side played against each other, what would happen?
Probably 2 or 3-0 to us.
Because you've just said that. You just said something interesting for me there. You said about the nucleus of your team was playing in the top level. You know what I mean? And I thought it was probably higher than what you said about 10 to 6 there, for example. Because I see the current Welsh side now. A lot of players either aren't playing regular in the top level, or they're playing lesser down League One, Championship.
Well, that's again, we had that.
You know what I mean? But a lot of your lads were going into games fit, flying, playing well, scoring goals, winning games, winning titles, winning competitions. Where now a lot of players who play international football, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, even Republic of Ireland, to probably a lesser degree, a lot of them aren't playing regular football. And to go into an international arena, a top international game, qualifier, friendly, whatever, World Cup tournament, they're not playing regular football. It must be so hard to go and play at a top level, elite level, when you're not playing at your own club level.
That was the problem for us. We had a couple of injuries, or more likely being suspensions, because you got to remember in them days the first division was a tougher league, and everybody's getting stuck in. Now you're playing European football, you show your studs and you get a yellow card. So, we were getting suspensions left, right, and centre, injuries, and you don't get that now because the game's changed a lot more. It's the same everywhere now. So I think it's easier. I actually think it's easier now to qualify.
I think as well with the rankings as well, the way that they've changed and evolved as well. I think it does give teams a little bit more of an edge, and with more teams qualifying, with the playoff system in place, you know what I mean. There wasn't that in place when you played, so
no,
you know what I mean. There's more things against you back then than it was, you know what I mean. Because if you lot had have achieved and got to a major final, you know what I mean, that England didn't have the strongest side, you know what I mean. Scotland didn't have strong sides.
Yeah.
They were still qualifying. So you know what I mean, it would have been nice to have us all there. Republic of Ireland,
the Republic, because we went and played over there twice. We beat them twice in the Republic, and they got over the line one year, and we were like, that's what we need to do. They got over the line, and the next time they had a bet. Obviously the rankings are much better for them then, and they kept qualifying for things then. And they had Kevin Sheedy as well. He should have been playing for us. He's Welsh.
Is he? Is he?
Yeah.
Is he?
I did not know that.
He would have helped. He would have helped.
He would have helped. Remember, he scored against England in the Euros. Scored against England in the Euros when we drew 1-1.
Yeah,
he was a good player, Kevin Sheedy.
Very, very good player, wasn't he?
Yeah, even better now as well, Si.
Yeah, he's quality, mate. He's one of the best I've ever seen. best Premier League player ever. Craig followed up actually, and he said, "Who would Bale replace in that team that you played in? Would it be Giggs, Rush, Saunders, Hughes?
None of them.
No, none of them.
You'd have to play left wing back.
Right. He'd have to go on the right, or we could put Ryan on the right and put him on the left."
I've got a question for you actually. One of my favourite players when I was growing up was Kanchelskis. What was he like to play with?
He's a great player.
Quality.
He was obviously very fast, great dribbler, but he again 2-footed. I mean, the difference when you got somebody who can strike a ball with both feet, you can go. This isn't Mason Greenwood's like that. Mason Greenwood's a slower version of him.
Yeah. Mason Greenwood looks the real deal, man. Every time he comes on, he contributes and just looks sharp.
I mentioned we don't practice enough finishing at United. When I was there, he's a natural. He was doing what he's doing now. He was doing when he was 12, 13, 14.
But he's obviously come through this year, Clay, and he's obviously a huge talent. Every time he seems to play, he seems to score. You know what I mean? That he's just seems to come alive in the box, but he's also
scores all types of goals, doesn't he?
But he obviously brings people into the game as well. I think he's earned that respect as well straight away by doing what he does best and scoring goals. But
that's what Rashford did as well.
Is there anybody else though? Because obviously people who don't know United won't know the kind of players who are coming through. Obviously, you watch them all the time. You do a lot of work at the stadium, Man United TV as well. So you'll know some names and things. What obviously us as on this show, and obviously the people who are listening and watching, obviously they won't know. So who's coming through? Who's the next best thing you think's coming out of United?
For me, Gomez he's a top player. He's one of the best around. He's a middle midfielder, great ball player. He can pass the ball anywhere you want. It's hard for him because it's a really tough midfield to get into, and I don't think they're going to give him the chance to get in there. And he'll go away and he'll play well. He'll probably go to Portugal or something. I don't know, but he is a fantastic player. I think I've heard Jimmy Garner might be going out now on loan. He's close. I mean, he's a Liverpool lad.
Yeah, I've heard good things about him.
Very good player. He was a centre back when I was a very good defender, but he could play as well. He had more to his game than just stopping people. So he's done really well as well.
Yeah, I think that. I was just going to say, I was going to ask you about Gomez. Obviously, he's had a couple of substitute appearances. He's had 1 or 2 starts in the cup competitions. His contract's up in the summer. If you believe the papers, he's asking for, I think, 35 grand a week, which is a lot for a young player. But then in the grand scheme of things, in football, and particularly, at a club like Manchester United, 35 grand a week isn't that much. I know it's a lot to everybody else, but in a football world, and for Man United, it's not that much. And when you consider that if he signs a 5-year deal and goes on and progresses the way that everyone expects, he's going to be worth 50, 60 million to the club.
Yeah.
Do you think they should give him 30 grand a week, or do you think they should let him go, risk it, and potentially probably sign him back like they did with Pogba for an obscene amount of money in years?
I'd definitely give him it.
It's not much for him, is it?
No,
it's not.
I mean, it's 30 grand. I mean, he's on the edge of the team, so he's, there'll be other people there earning a lot more than that, and they're not as good as him. There's a lot of players in the team who are not as good as him.
I don't think it's too much of a risk. Because I remember it was 2 years ago. I watched the FA Youth Cup, semi-final, and it was West Ham against Chelsea, and Chelsea had a certain Christensen played centre half. And he was absolutely diabolical. I remember watching him, and West Ham were getting him behind him. He couldn't trap a ball. He couldn't control a ball. He was getting bullied left, right, and centre. And then the commentator just spurted out that apparently he's just signed a 5-year deal, 60 grand a week, and everyone was up in arms on social media, and you know what I mean. But you've got to put things into a bigger picture. In 5 years' time, this 17-year-old player is going to be 23, 24-year-old. You know what I mean? So 23, 24-year-old, he could be earning in excess of 100, 200 grand a week, but he won't be because he's going to be on this 60 grand a week contract. So, you know what I mean? Chelsea and Man United on 30 grand a week, these Gomez, it's going to probably save him more money in the long run because these lads are tied to contracts and tied to big contracts. And, you know what I mean? Man United aren't daft. Man United are a business. You know what I mean? The chairmans and the owners aren't stupid. The manager's not stupid. That these kind of people, you know what I mean? They're not in it to waste money. They're in it to try and keep the best players instead of having to make the same mistake on Pogba and lose him on a free or £1 million and buy him back for 100 million quid, which is just silly business sense.
Spot on. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, Chris there asks, what's your thoughts on Tahith Chong at Man United?
Yeah, I think he's a great chance of. He's had his chances, but he's only played like the odd game, or he's come off the bench, and he's not had he needs a run in the team. See, some people get a run. I remember Marcus; he get a few injuries, and then Marcus gets 5, 6. All of a sudden, he's played like 200 games already. Marcus should be like on 100 games now, because when we used to have 4 top strikers, he should have been in and out. But we rely on Marcus as he's one of our top strikers, and. For me, I don't know. He needs a run in the team so he can build his confidence, and he can then take people. When you're a player that takes people on, he's a dribbler. You take people on. You need that confidence of doing it. You can't just do it once in a game and then he doesn't play for 3 or 4 weeks and then go back in and try it. For me, I know he's got pace. When he was growing up, he always had an end product. I always looked as somebody got an end product. Can they put a good cross in? And when he's playing in reserves, he makes goals all the time. He scores or he makes a goal.
Yeah, he's shown glimpses, Tahith Chong, haven't he? I think, but you're right. Especially when you're that age, coming into the first team at any club, let alone one of the biggest clubs in the world, to expect them to do something in 10, 15 minutes here and there is very difficult. Whereas if you can get them 3, 4 games, 5 games in a row of good, a good hour or a good half hour, they're more likely to give you and show you what they can do.
I think the big problem you've got Marshall, who plays well on the left.
Yes.
Marcus grew up a left winger, Marcus Rashford. He's good on the left. Now Daniel James is on the left as well. He's a left player. That's your problem. He can be a top player, but again, for me, he's a top player.
How good's Daniel James, Clayton? Because obviously he's up and coming. I didn't expect him to play as many games as he had.
I didn't. I'd never heard of him over a year ago, but he's been fantastic. And then again, his form's dipped. But like you say, he's played a lot more games probably than he thought he would. But again, we've played him out of position.
Yeah,
I watched him playing against City on the left, and that's for me. I think he's a left-sider, and he puts good crosses in with his left, and he can cut in on his right. Whatever, he's got a bit of everything. But in the last probably month of the season, he wasn't really performing as well as he was before.
Yeah.
He's got to find his mojo again and get back up there.
But you said there about young players needing a run of games. You know, I mean, he got that, didn't he, to start? You know, I mean, probably earlier than what he anticipated, more than I thought he was going to get. You know that he scored obviously his first game against Chelsea, I think it was, and he hit the ground running and did really well. And but as a young player, he's always going to have that lull in performances, and a manager's then's got to see that and bring him out and keep him out of the side for a little bit instead of putting too much pressure on a young player, because if you know what I mean, you know what the football world's like, especially at United, that surely the pressure's ramped up on him if he's underperforming week in, week out, and he's obviously going to go into a shell a little bit.
Now, when I watch him play, I mean, I'm thinking the players need to know. Here's one, Pogba's been out injured. I think Pogba playing now with Daniel James playing out on the left, making runs like a Giggsy. Yeah, but I mean, with Pogba back, he's looking in behind all the time.
Yes,
and that gets James to run in behind, because James has got to use his pace. He's so fast. He's one of the fastest players I've ever seen. When you see him live, he's like rapid.
Yeah.
And if he's making a run, he's going to tear teams apart if we can deliver the ball. And all we're missing now is a Scholesy, and that's Pogba's game. He plays balls in behind. Obviously, Bruno does it a bit as well, but Bruno does it further up the field. Pogba can do it from further back. He does it deeper.
There's our man out where I'm at. There you go, Daniel James.
Yeah.
Be interesting to.
Hey, that's the last time we won something, when we had a Welshman in the team. That's what we've not been doing well without Giggsy.
It will be interesting to see how they get on with if they get Pogba and Fernandes in the same side with Rashford, Martial, Daniel James running in behind. You could potentially see the sort of combinations that you saw back in the Fergie's era. Jamie there asks, do you think Mason Greenwood would have got a look in if they hadn't sold Lukaku?
Yeah, for me, he had to play him alongside Lukaku.
It's a good shot.
Honestly, he's a finisher. He will score more goals than anybody else in that team if you keep him playing. He will outscore Marcus, Marshall, all of them. He needs to be playing down the middle. Now and again, he keeps coming on the right, doesn't he? He's playing on the right a bit too much, but he cuts in. He's a clever player, and he knows how to score goals. He's a goal scorer. He makes good runs as well in the box, which a lot of our players don't do that.
I think that you've just said there, and we said it earlier on, Clay, about somebody fronting it up and having that presence, and a Lukaku or a Van Nistelrooy or Ibrahimovic. It just brings other people into the game, and I don't know, one man up front for me, especially if you're a young lad, it must be so disheartening for a.
Yeah, that's really hard for Marcus, because he's not
for a runner. No, he's not that kind of player, is he? He doesn't like.
He's back to play. You give him the ball running at people, and it's a nightmare for defenders. You see him running at you.
Yeah, it must be. I
totally agree. You've got to nail him as well. If he's there, you let him turn on you, you've got a massive problem.
Mm-hmm. But I think though, if you had a target man though up front, and he did all that work in and around the box with somebody else, he's always got someone in the box to aim at, and
he's only got one himself as well, and to beat.
Exactly.
Not two.
Totally agree. Or three.
When Rooney was still at the club, I remember when we were down at Swansea, and he pulled away from one of the centre backs. He was just about to get a shot in, and the other centre back gets him. And then you're looking at Vardy. They've got two up front. He's scoring goals for fun. And I remember one of the Leicester fans saying, "Well, the other centre forward's not really scoring." I says, "I know, but he is, because he's occupying the other centre back." So
totally agree. And you asked Jamie Vardy, who his favourite partner, who his favourite strike partner is. It someone who takes the pressure off him and who does the stuff that he doesn't like doing, who flicks balls on, or the amount of goals he scored was flick-ons by certain players. That's just the way of the world, and that's just direct play.
You put him up front on his own, where he has to come off for the ball. He won't know what day it is.
That's why it didn't work for England when he played up front. For England on his own didn't work. He wasn't that kind of player. He was holding things up. He wasn't running in behind. It didn't suit him. He didn't really hit the world. Hit the world like for England, and that's why he soon found out that his level was where it is, because it's such a different game.
Yeah, but when you say the level, his game's running in behind. So why put him in a team if you're going to have him coming off?
He wouldn't. Well, and I've always said that when he played for England, if he was playing in front of Harry Kane, it would have been probably a dream partnership but he never
That
did it. It
was
was
a
either
no-brainer for me.
one or the other. It was just
No-brainer for me. Harry Kane and the running machine.
Yeah,
Nightmare
never
for
happened.
two centre-backs.
Totally agree.
I'm glad I'm Welsh.
Yeah, spot on. So, Clayton, I was going to ask you about your Welsh debut versus Norway,
Ooh,
all the way back in '85. I was going to ask you just really, were you expecting it, or did it come out of the blue? And like, how did it come about, and how did it feel? I suppose.
Well, I do. Mark was with me. Mark Hughes. Obviously, we were on tour playing Jamaica, and we were in Montego, and then I remember Mark flew home, and we stayed over there for a couple of days with Martin Edwards and all the staff and a few of the players. And then a day later, somebody must have got injured, and then a day or two later, Martin Edwards come up to me and says, when we get back to Gatwick, when you get back to Heathrow, you've got to go to Gatwick to meet up with the Welsh team. They've dragged you into the Welsh team.
Wow.
So I didn't know until the last minute. It was at the end of the season as well, but I mean, I think we drew the second half when I came on.
What about your first? What about your one and only goal then, Claire? Because obviously I watched it today, and I was
the best ever game. That
was it against the Pharaohs. Some of the goals were just unbelievable. And well, obviously I'm not going to be disrespectful. And it doesn't mean to come across disrespectful. I know the kind of technique quality that you had on the ball and things that and Si said the same. When I said you'd only scored one goal, I was gobsmacked really, because you took free kicks, you took penalties in your career. You know what I mean? How come you didn't score more goals than just the one?
Did you not hear me earlier on when we said we played Holland, we played Germany? I never got over the halfway line.
Hey, you're good enough. You're good enough. You're good enough, tell you.
Yeah, Ian Rush, Mark Hughes, the only ones that got in the other half.
Apart from Giggsy set you up for your goal. To be fair, he did. You know what I mean? You bombed on. He cut it in the box. It was a great finish near post, and you know what I mean. Obviously, you know what I mean. To play for your country is great. To score must be just another level.
Well, that was a massive bonus. But in the game, for the first time, I played sweeper, and they just dropped off. I mean, the Arms Park's massive as well, a pitch. So I've got the ball now, pretty much all the game, and I'm playing balls in behind for Rushy and Dino. They're making runs in behind, and it was a ball, just putting balls in behind. I was on the ball most of the game.
Quality.
And we got the 4-0 and the chain went to 4-4.
To round things up then, Claire, about your career, for me, I think it's been an unbelievable, successful career. You know what I mean? You played at the top level, played with some unbelievable players, won trophies. You know what I mean? You won the Cup of United. But if you could only pick one highlight from your football career, what would it be?
Cup Winners' Cup.
Cup Winners' Cup.
It's always the best thing. I mean, winning the Premier League was great. You know, we were under the scrutiny all the time for years and years and years about, you know, we haven't won the league for 26 years. Or 24 years, 25 years, 26 years. And, you know, it was great to get that done. But the whole build up to the, you know, we were because of Liverpool got us out of Europe. We haven't been in Europe for 5 years. And British teams dominated Europe. They hate British teams because we work so hard. We play 4-4-2 and we work so hard.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, the way and the team what Barcelona had as well. You know what I mean? Baquero played in midfield. Ronald Koeman. You know what I mean? They had some world class players. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean, the game, the two goals by Mark Hughes, the second one especially, when he took the ball on the goalkeeper, and you know what I mean, did he have to hit it that hard? Could he just tapped it in?
No, it was a guy getting back, wasn't it? The guy was just getting back to the line. He had to hit it that hard. But the thing was, because he was running away from goal. What it is, if you ever see him, we knew he had big thighs.
Yeah.
At the top of his thigh, there's a massive muscle. I don't know what I'm trying to find mine, and mine's into one. He's got like an extra muscle there, and I'm just you just can't hit the ball that hard from running away from goal.
Yeah.
I think it's only him who could have done it, or maybe Ronnie.
Special talent.
No, it was a fantastic finish from his back, but you know he was that I think he wanted that badly because they didn't treat him that well when he was over in Barcelona.
Yeah,
they didn't give him much of a chance.
Fair play. So if you could do your football career again, Clay, and you were starting over again, 16-year-old, would you do anything different than what you did in your football career?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have drunk as much. I wouldn't have joined in with everybody drinking. because everybody was doing it.
Yeah,
Everybody was doing it.
I know. Well,
You'd have been
yeah.
fitter. When you look back, you'd have been fitter.
Yeah, you would have been. Yeah.
Fitter, I'd have been quicker. I'd have got on a rack and tried to stretch myself so I'm a couple of inches taller. That might have made me a little bit quicker as well. I enjoyed everything. United was great. It was really difficult at times. I've gone through every emotion at United, I think, before and after when Sir Alex came through. But it's all about winning things, and I was lucky enough to win things at United, and then obviously, we went to Middlesbrough. We won the league there the first year. The league we were trying to win for 26 years. I actually won it the first time I went to Middlesbrough.
I know. Well, the thing is, I think I just, you know what I mean. It was the revolution. You know what I mean. You've been involved in two massive revolutions. The United one when Fergie took over, and you evolved the club. And obviously, when you left United, they'd already won the Premier League, and how many they won after. And then you went to Middlesbrough, and the revolution started again. So you know what I mean. You must be proud of the kind of things that followed you around, really.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing. Going to Middlesbrough, you wanted to. You've been at a top club with top players. You wanted to show that you can win. No disrespect to the club. Obviously, we're not as big as United. Middlesbrough's not as big as United, and you haven't got the money to bring in as many top players. But in the end, we did. But it was good to win things at a club not as big as United.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I think that, and for me, that put Middlesbrough on the map. You know what I mean? As a huge Middlesbrough fan. Before I got lucky enough to play for my home side, but it just put Middlesbrough on the map, and they've never really looked back. Really, you know what I mean? They've got themselves a new stadium, and it's now a proper football club. Where, you know what I mean, when you first joined and you were training at Tollsby Road or the beach or the prison or the park, or you know what I mean, it must have been a massive come down from training at the Cliff, for example, to training where you were training for Middlesbrough.
The funniest thing is that training at the prison, and I'm quite a good runner. I'm not that super fast, but I'm a good timer, and so I just remember we did the same training as we did at United. So we're doing these 600 meters and all that. It's supposed to be 600 yards, and I'm getting around, and the guy's going, "You should be in now." I think John Pitt was saying, "We should be." I'm like 500 yards away where I should be. And what they'd done, they'd marked it out. Well, they'd marked it in meters rather than yards. So we're running meters instead of yards.
That doesn't surprise me. Gordon McQueen. So we did. It was on Ayresome Park when obviously it moved, and we kept Ayresome Park as a training ground. So Gordon McQueen had set out a bleep test for the reserves. You know what I mean? I think the first team had a game on the night. So we the ones who weren't playing. So we did a bleep test, and instead of doing a 20-meter bleep test, we did a 20-yard bleep test. So Gordon went in to go to the toilet. By the time he came on, we'd all finished the bleep test, completed the whole thing, and he just didn't get it. He just didn't understand why. And it was just one of those moments. But we didn't tell him, he just kept it quiet. So if you just get to find out, then he just thought we were all just super fit and super athletic.
Quality. So Clayton, I know you've stayed a lot longer than originally planned. I appreciate that immensely, and I'm sure all the people who've been firing questions throughout. I know. I was going to say, it's starting to lose you.
Pay electricity bill.
No, we appreciate it massively, mate. Honestly, big thing for me personally. Anyway, just to have a chat with you and stuff, and I know everyone else who's watching. Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. You are absolutely welcome back at any time, and if you want to do I do a load of other different podcasts, and I'd love to get you on for any of those. So just whenever you if you fancy it, burning an hour, then you're always welcome. Always welcome.
It's been a joy.
Cheers, Claire. You stay safe, mate. Love the family.
Take care.
Top man.
Cheers. Yeah, bye, mate.
Nice.
Cheers, bud.
Cool. Yeah, Clayton Blackmore. What a legend.
Hero.
Yeah, I gotta say, people seem to really be enjoying it. They just love it. Yeah, it's cracking. Clayton Blackmore. All I will say is the next couple of weeks could be special. And that's all I will say.
Could be huge.
Could be very, very special. So keep an eye on the socials and we'll see what occurs. But got a few things in the pipeline, my friend. So just to finish off with you and myself, we're just going to talk about the any other business of the week, really. Just the stories which have taken your eye, mate.
Yeah, well, obviously, I don't think we can start anywhere except the German Bundesliga. Obviously, that started on Saturday. I trekked myself to the Borussia Dortmund game, which was really excited before it started. So I'll be honest, I was looking forward to the game. I seen the teams. I seen everyone built the game up to be something special, and the game started, and I was just so let down. I don't know what I expected. You know what I mean? I've had a couple of interesting conversations on Twitter and social media about what did they expect, and it was going to be no better than what everyone said it was. But I just thought it was just going to be something else. I know it was going to be no one in there, no fans there, but I just don't know. I just thought they could have had maybe some crowd noise over the speakers. I just think I don't know. We could have been better. But then the biggest problem I had, Si, with the whole thing is we're all social distancing, but there's people touch tight on a corner. But then all the subs have all got masks on and they're all sat 2 meters away from each other. But then all of a sudden, when the manager decides, Jadon Sancho, for example, comes on as sub, he takes his mask off and he's then touch tight to a player. So I didn't get some parts of it. I fully got the others, and I was delighted that football was back. I was just a little bit confused and a little bit disillusioned at times, and I don't know if I liked it. I did like the fact I had a conversation with my dad about yesterday about football in general and the Premier League coming back and playing at neutral grounds. I don't know if that's been agreed in the Premier League, but I see a problem with playing at neutral grounds. If I'm watching a game of football, Manchester City against Man United, and it's played at and it's
cheeky, that isn't it? Cheeky.
I had to read that. And if it's played at a smaller stadium, I just don't think it'll look as good. There was something about playing at its normal ground and playing in front of the yellow seats and the yellow stadium at Dortmund. And I'm just hoping the Premier League learns from the good things, but then also learns from the things that didn't work as well, and just so it can be a little bit better. That's if you just go ahead, by the way, because the things I'm listening to and the players are talking. There's more players now coming out saying that they don't want to play. So
the thing which had maybe kind of pricked my interest a bit over the last couple of days has been that you don't really hear much from players saying, and just generally they won't speak out against their club. They won't speak out against the FA, etc., for fear of being charged or whatever. Generally, like normally, they've all kept quiet throughout the whole lockdown. And now, as it's beginning to gather pace that the Premier League or they're going to do this and that, you're seeing players just on social media or radio. I heard a couple on Talk Sport, and they don't seem happy with him, mate. And I don't blame them. I got to be honest, I really don't blame them. The thing about the German league, like, I just find it ridiculous because you've got, what was the point in having those masks? And what was the point in social distancing on the bench? And then when one of them scored in one of the games, they kissed the other guy. And it was like, well, what was the point in social distance?
Yeah. Well, the thing is also, one thing I don't get, and please, if somebody can comment and tell me if I'm massively off the mark here, that when somebody scored, and I'm sure it was Haaland scored, and instead of high-fiving, they do the old elbow, but elbow to hand. My elbow can still have germs on it.
Yeah.
My elbow can still have germs on it. So you're touching my elbow, surely you're still touching germs. So surely you're best off not touching each other. Surely, I just don't get it. If they didn't touch each other and stayed away, I could probably totally get it. But it's, do you know what I mean? But football's a game of passion. Football's a game of desire. And when you score a goal, luckily enough for Dortmund, they were 4-0 up, or 5-0 up, whatever the score was. If they'd scored the winner in the last minute, you can't tell me out of pure desire, enjoyment, passion that somebody's not going to just grab hold of somebody and just, you know what I mean? It's going to happen because you're going to forget about it. But then what moves me moves me on to my next point, side the whole thing. So right, someone will probably make sure I'm right here. So the Premier League's still going ahead, apparently. Championship's still going ahead, apparently. League One's still going ahead, apparently, and League Two's been cancelled. I must have missed that League Two is called something different. The last time I checked, it was the EFL League Two. So the EFL Championship, the EFL League One, and the EFL League Two. So why on earth hasn't the EFL cancelled all of the leagues, or they're all doing the same thing? Surely they're not umbrellaed differently to 3 different leagues. Surely the same league is done by the same governing body. And this is what...
Did you hear the best one today?
That's what scares me.
Did you see what Harrogate's managing director said?
No.
That basically they're pushing for them to be promoted from League Two after the clubs have voted, because they're second in the standings. They're 4 points behind the leaders when it was all stopped.
Yeah, Boro.
That is a dangerous precedent to set if you start handing out promotions, relegations, trophies, titles for teams that aren't mathematically qualified for that. Like, if they haven't mathematically won it, then they don't get the title, in my opinion. If you haven't mathematically been promoted, then you don't get promoted. If the season's void, I mean. If they void, League Two's void, so then, in my opinion, every single one of those clubs has got to stay where they are. I
totally agree. We had the same conversation when Kev was on the show 4 weeks ago, wasn't it? We had Kev on, and we were on about Scottish football. And Scottish football, outside of the Premier League, relegated and promoted, League One, League Two, Championship, League One and League Two. Today, Celtic won the league. Haven't earned the right to win it, but they've won the league, and Hearts have been relegated. And then an hour later, the government body in Scotland decided and said that on appeal, Hearts could stay up and they could expand the league and increase an extra team in the league. So which is fine. See, what you might as well do, you might as well void the season, because you're not going to relegate Hearts. That means you can't promote Dundee United. That means you can't relegate the team from the Championship. You can't relegate the team from League One, and you can't relegate the team from League Two, because you're setting a precedent with the best sides, and you're setting a precedent with one of the biggest teams in Scotland, which is Hearts. Just because Hearts are where they are, if you're going to go set a precedent, you either stick to your decision and go through the whole decision, or you just void the whole season. Nobody goes up, nobody goes down. But if that means then Celtic don't win the title.
It should be that. But the Premier League have long wanted to stop relegation, haven't they? They've long wanted that. They've long wanted to isolate their league and make it separate. And I think that has been shown with all these negotiations. It's been shown how little the Championship is thought of, because you don't see these stories about what they're going to do with the Championship, but they're going to do playoffs. They're going to do this. It's always the Premier League. It's always what's going to happen with the Premier League. And then it's almost like the Football League is just an afterthought. They'll sort that whenever, but the Premier League must be complete. And it's like, well, they're all linked. They all go into each other. They all play in the FA Cup. They all play in the Carling Cup. I've said it for weeks, mate. FIFA should have stepped in, and it should have been the same for everyone, because you've got leagues like the Premier League and the La Liga and all these different leagues who play in the same tournaments in Europe. So it has to be an even playing field for everyone. You can't have one league doing this and then another league doing that. I
totally agree. But then it doesn't. I watched the football show on Sky a couple of days ago, and Phil Parkinson was on. Phil is now Sunderland manager. His side's in the playoffs, and rightly so. He wants the playoffs to happen because he wants to get out that division. But then you've got Ipswich Town, who are 10th, and the argument he said that they're having is Ipswich Town can still qualify for the playoffs. Yeah, they've got a couple of games in hand, so he thinks, and he said the proposal is from 10th upwards, or from 10th to 10 to 3, so that they're going to have a 7-team playoffs instead of 4. Well, how is that fair?
How can you adapt it for one league but not another league? And
because for me, you know what I mean? Yes, get with my Cardiff City hat on. That means the Championship should have Cardiff City and up, or the teams below Cardiff City and up. Because if you can still mathematically make the playoffs, then surely your argument is because Cardiff City want that Premier League money. They might as well
Go
for it. Well, you've got nothing to lose, have you? Because what happens? You lose a game or two, and then you're out anyway. But you might do.
You could go back. So Cardiff are on 54 points in ninth. Blackburn and Swansea are on 53, just under them. And then Derby are on 51.
Derby are in form.
Yeah, QPR are on 50. So arguably you could go down to 13th and say they could all still do it. But Derby County are banging form. They've gone from like bottom of the league to 12th. Wayne Rooney's on fire. They got all this momentum.
Yeah, I know.
So why shouldn't they be in these ridiculous playoffs?
And this is the thing that we've got, haven't we? You know what I mean? That you do points per game isn't going to work because you're not going to have that kind of change in a swing. You know what I mean? So you're going to avoid a season and just stay where you are now. You might as well finish. And so it just doesn't sit right with me. You know what I mean? I've said it all along. You know, I'd love the season to finish when it's right to finish. Why do we need to rush it? Why are we rushing it? Why are we rushing to cancel seasons when you might as well leave it and cancel next season? It just doesn't make sense to me. Just, you know what I mean? But now it's dragged on that long. I don't know if players are going to want to start again. You know what I mean? People are saying they want another 4 weeks when they go back training. Apparently the Championship's going back training on Monday. They're having the test done on Thursday and Friday, which is costing tens of thousands of pounds per week. Some clubs can't afford it, so how do they get around it? You know what I mean? There's clubs who are losing managers. I know Burton Albion lost Nigel Clough today, one of the longest serving managers in the Football League. He left his position.
Do you know why?
Burton Albion. Why did he leave?
Yeah,
he left as a cost cutting. Save money apparently.
Why wouldn't he just take a go on furlough, or if he's gonna?
Yeah, because they're giving player manager to Jake Buxton, who was a player, so that he's player manager.
The thing which doesn't make sense about that is they would have had to pay him off by sacking him if he's got any sort of contract.
It depends if it depends if his contract run out. I suppose if his contract run out, he's just been released out of his contract. He might have been out.
Yeah, but he would have had a contract till at least the end of the season. So what's that? Yeah. July. So they've still had to pay him his wages, which they would have paid him anyway.
Yeah, totally agree.
So that's a bit bizarre. Let's have a quick. Craig says, "I know the situation's unusual, but the rules makers should have something in the rules about if the league is abandoned. They do for the games. It's happened in the history of football with wars, etc. So really, they should make sure that there is something in place." Spot on. But FIFA should have sorted this now, probably 3 weeks ago. Say, I can understand giving a bit of time. Now it's just dragging on. People and clubs are getting frustrated. The clubs at the lower end of the game struggling to pay their bills, to do this, that. Yeah. The players at the top end of the game are getting twitchy because they're thinking of their contracts running out in a couple of weeks. I don't know if I want to play because my contract's up and I was looking for a big move to X, Y, and Z.
No, I totally agree. And then on top of this side as well, potentially, who knows? You know what I mean? You might have games getting postponed, abandoned for whatever reason. You know what I mean? We all know what the weather's like in Derby. You know what I mean? For the snow. You know what I mean? Ed tells us all the time. So you know what I mean? So you know what I mean? You just don't know, do you? You just don't know what's around the corner. You know what I mean? If teams aren't allowed to play for 2 weeks, if the coronavirus hits their clubs, then what's the point in playing anyway? Because then you're 2 weeks behind everybody else. It's unfair. You know what I mean? It's making a farce of the whole thing. Yes, I want football back, but I want it back proper. I want it back right. I think I said Saturday night or Saturday afternoon about halftime during the Dortmund game that football's nothing without football fans, and I'll stick by that. I will stick by that statement because for me, football fans make football. If there was no football fans in the Millennium Stadium in 2003 when I scored my goal and we won the playoff final, wouldn't have felt the same. It wouldn't have the same memories as it has to this day, and rightly so. You know what I mean? And
did you watch all the Bundesliga game, mate? Did you watch the whole game?
I watched the whole game for Dortmund, yeah.
I turned it on. I just couldn't get into it. It's not the same. And so for instance, I've done a couple of UFC shows recently with some proper UFC fighters. Brett Johns, we had Richard Shaw, got Jack Tank Shaw coming on soon. A little plug for that. Danny Batten Fight Show. Check it out if you like boxing and MMA. So with them, they've got they're doing it in a like an arena. Everybody's got to be tested. The cameramen, everyone who's going to be in that building, has got to be tested before and all the fighters are isolated during their fight camp with their teams. They have no contact with the outside world, apart from the hotel staff who are also tested. They're in a set hotel. So it's like, you've got that. That's easier to do in a fight thing because you can isolate those people completely. Whereas football, there's so many people. I think it's difficult. You saw, who was it? I can't remember. I texted you. One of the German coaches was banned from going to the game. I think it was from Cologne.
Yeah, he went and
bought toothpaste, and he broke the isolation rules of they had to stay in the hotel and all this. And it's like, whilst I understand the rules and stuff, it is what it is. I just think.
But then, you've got ball boys and ball girls getting the balls at the games. Well, just have 50 more balls and just get the balls at the end.
Yeah. And those social distancing rules make no sense because you had players social distancing on the bench, and then if they come on for a corner, they're going to be all over each other, marking and hugging.
And they were.
So it's like pointless.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense. I really wanted football back, and a few people jumped on my throat a little bit over the weekend about saying what did they expect, and I listen. I totally understand where people are coming from. I don't know what I expected because I've never watched it before. I've never experienced this before like anyone else.
Yeah, it's never happened before, is it?
You know what I mean?
We don't know what
I've watched Champions League games behind closed doors before on TV. Hated them. You know what I mean? But this felt worse because it wasn't no crowd trouble. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't. Do you know what I mean? And then I watched the game on Sunday. I watched Union Berlin against Bayern Munich, and Union Berlin apparently weren't a team two or 3 years ago. You know what I mean? The fans have built this football club up. They've formed this club. They've financed it. They've built a stadium. And then all of a sudden, the biggest game of their history, they weren't allowed any fans in the ground against the biggest team in Germany. And this is the biggest thing. You see, Martin's got a point there. He's got a point. Cancel a lot. Life's more important than football. Life's the only thing in life because football wouldn't be here if it wasn't for life. You know what I mean? And what I don't want to listen. You know what I mean? And we don't want to have a conversation in a month's time, 6 weeks time of doing a show about somebody who's lost their life playing football.
Yeah. Because they've been I don't want to say forced, but not railroaded either. But these players are being put under pressure to play. Let's make no mistake. Let's not hide behind whatever. There's a lot of those footballers, or there's a big portion of them who are not comfortable playing. They don't want to put their families at risk, and why should they? Because Wales is still on lockdown completely. The kids are not going back to school anytime soon because there's no vaccine, there's no cure. So people are, trying to protect their families, their businesses, whatever it may be. People are worried. So why should sports people of any kind be used as guinea pigs to see if we can get on with it?
Listen, it's dead easy. It's dead easy for me and for you to sit here and to say don't go back. You know what I mean? I've had conversations with my dad, with Sophie about would I play? Would I want to go out that door, play and come back and put family at risk? It's a big decision you've got to make. You know what I mean? And then you've got the so-called ex-players who say if players don't play, they shouldn't get paid. Well, you can't say that. You know what I mean? Every individual's different, and if they don't want to play, the reason why they don't want to play surely is because they're scared to play.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They're trying to protect a family member or a baby or someone. Jamie says there, my entertainment shouldn't come before someone's life. Leslie's just made a good point. First time for everything, Leslie. Well done. He says since Boris lifted the lockdown, everyone's is going about like there's nothing, there's no virus. The 2 meters is gone in Asda's and Tesco's. Everything's all gone. Well, Leslie, in Wales, everything is still going. We're all on lockdown because we're not listening to Boris. Basically, the Welsh government have finally grown some balls.
But for me, this is similar side to what we're talking about football, about governing bodies doing the same thing. For me, everybody in the UK should be doing the same thing. You know what I mean? So we're all singing off the same sheet because, you know what I mean? People people live on borders, people work over borders of places. You know what I mean? So how does that work? Because you live in a certain place, you're not allowed to go to work because it shouldn't be this kind of this complex and this difficult. You know what I mean? We're trying to protect lives. We're trying to protect the NHS. We're trying to stop things becoming worse. Yes, the rate's going down. I'm not an expert, by the way. Before anybody jumps down my throat, I just listen to the same as everybody else, and I just want all this to go away because I've got a 6.5-week-old baby who's never met anybody. I've got a mum who I'd love to go and give a cuddle to. I've got a dad who I'd love to go and give a cuddle to. You know what I mean? There's I haven't seen my brother. You know what I mean? There's the same as everybody else. I'm not. This isn't a feel sorry for me show, but this is just my own personal thing. Like everyone else has got their own little personal things, and I just want it to go away. And I don't see it getting any better whilst we're going back to normality, or seems to like we're going back to normality. I went for a bit of exercise on Saturday, where I live, went on my bike for a while, and I saw ice cream shops open, people queuing up to get an ice cream, and I just think, does that really need to happen? Do you know what I mean? Is that a necessity in your life? And I just don't get it. I don't get it.
She's been told off by my wife. No politics, Simon.
Can we ban people on here?
Yeah, I can. I can ban. So I can ban anyone I want. I had to ban someone, didn't I, the other day? Yeah. No, look. At the end of the day, like the only reason we're just discussing it, people are scared. Like that's it. You know, like the only reason I'm so against and saying void the season is because I don't want Liverpool to win the league. No, it's because I don't want to be doing a show in a week, 2 weeks, a month, paying tribute to footballer X because he's died of coronavirus. Simple as that. And me watching football, it doesn't matter more than keeping everyone. Well, I want to keep as many people alive as possible now, at the end of the day. That's it.
Totally agree.
So just to finish off, and James says, if there's people's lives at risk, things need to be more straightforward. Having things be more complex doesn't help. It's very true. Richie says, even the school teachers are being targeted now as well. I feel that I can't send my kids back to school for the rest of this year. Once the parliament is fully open, then everything else possible can get back to some sort of normality. Yes, we got my wife hasn't seen her mother since her auntie's funeral, so my mother-in-law's sister's funeral. But she, she'd love to go and see her, but she doesn't want to be going to another funeral.
Yeah, totally agree. I totally agree. And
I'd love to see my mother. My mother lives on her own. She's 64 or whatever.
Same as my mum.
I've seen her for 9 weeks or something. But
and I think this is the thing side for me, that I see this as a short term thing, a short term fix, because if I did go and see her and the worst case scenario happened, I'd have to live with that forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'd blame myself, because you just don't know, do you?
Because you would feel like your impatience got the better of you, and the worst happened.
And I passed it on. I've somehow passed it on, even though I feel okay. You just don't know, and you know what I mean. And it's not nice. You know what I mean? You've got parents up and down the world, country. You know what I mean? Who are on their own. It's awful to see. You know what I mean? That FaceTime, social media, Zoom, everything is just being battered and hammered just so people can have a bit of normality with your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, mate, we all want it, don't we? I'd just like to say, shout out to the person who just sent a donation to the podcast PayPal. I appreciate that immensely. They have asked not to be named though, but I thank you very much. I do really appreciate that. So yeah, another good show, mate. Another good chat.
I loved it. Very interesting. Clay had some great stories to tell.
Indeed, he did. 200th episode of A.C.E Podcast Nation, and again, I will say thank you to everyone who's watched, viewed, shared, liked over the 200 episodes. It's only the beginning. We're only getting going. Thank you to you as well, Andy, for your co-hostness-ship and your friendship and all that crap.
Always, mate. Always here.
Appreciate it, my friend. Appreciate it. And also, I'd like to say that if anyone is interested in sponsoring this show or Ace Podcast Nation as a channel or any of our other many series, you can get in contact with myself. You can get in contact with Black Diamond Sports International, who are now representing not just Mr. Campbell, but also Ace Podcast Nation. The emails in my bios and stuff. But yes, it's all good. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Obscenities in the live chat as usual. Can't take them anywhere.
No.
Subscribe, youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. That is still the best, most direct way to support the channel and helps us grow as we try to get to that 1,000 on YouTube, which has seemed proven elusive as we hurtle along on Facebook. But again, I thank you all for watching. I thank you, Andy. Thanks to Clayton as well. Hoping that I can get Clayton on for an episode of My Story or Unscripted Uncensored. I think that could be quite good. But we'll see. He's a very busy man, and there's just people everywhere. Thank you to everyone. There's too many comments to read. I can't go through them all. I'm going to go and have a drink with my wife to celebrate 200 episodes of Ace Podcast Nation. I thank you